everyone. Welcome to the River's Edge Radio Network. Brian Crawford here with a major announcement as we are making more changes to the River's Edge Radio Network. This is the first of a couple announcements we'll be making for you. As you can see behind me, I have a different banner. That's right. I have a banner of a great Pittsburgh podcast, the Pittsburgh Podcast. And this particular podcast is making its way to Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Talk, the River's Edge Radio Network. It is John and Rachel of the YaJagoff podcast. John, Rachel, welcome to the River's Edge, and thank you guys so much for coming here. I'm really excited to bring you guys aboard. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. So tell me a little bit about YaJagoff. Tell me about the podcast. How long have you guys been around?
How about that intro?
Yeah,
that was kind of a cool intro.
I thought the intro was good, but I thought the buffet beforehand was even better. Like steak and eggs like that.
Yeah,
like and you get all the hummus.
We don't mess around at the River's Edge. What can I say?
You don't.
Like, there's like 47 people in the
Royalty
office.
treatment.
Yeah, it's crazy. But thanks for having us. Go ahead. You were going to say something, and I interrupted.
No, I just thought it was a great intro. He said major announcement, and I was blushing. It's pretty exciting.
I mean, you guys are one of the premier podcasts in the Pittsburgh area. You mentioned podcasts that people know, and YaJagoff is one of the first ones that people mention. The blog, the podcast, everything coming together. You guys put together a fantastic product.
Thank you.
And you go around and you talk about podcasting in Pittsburgh, and that's one of the top several that people will mention.
Well, you're kind. Thank you. We appreciate that. We've done our best, right? And the cool thing is we're having fun. And I think, like most podcasters, it's all about passion and more than anything. And I think we love it. We get to.
And I think we all know John certainly started it. He had the vision, and he's grown the brand tremendously. And now people know that it's not just some silly Pittsburgh word. It's become a brand, and it's something that we're proud to kind of umbrella under at this point. So yeah.
How long have you guys been doing the YaJagoff podcast?
So the first podcast was Light Up Night of I think it'll be this will be the fourth.
Yeah,
this will be this Light Up Night, and this coming fall will be the 4th anniversary of the first podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we did it right from Dave DiCello's store, so we always try to include Dave, Pittsburgh photographer, in our podcasts each year as we go back. And last year was a big celebration because our sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, who we also do marketing for, had us down there at Light Up Night, and we got to announce people from the stage and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So it was
a lot
kind
of Pittsburgh bands.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's incredible.
It was a big deal. So we've had a lot of fun doing it, and I appreciate the kind words. And the podcasting community is so small, right? As far as and we need to be tighter and it's all better if we all play together and work together. And the Pittsburgh Podcast Network, kudos to them because they were pulling people together and helped us get started. And now here we are continuing what we think is the right thing in podcasting is just pushing on.
Well, it's interesting. I think that there are more podcasts than we realize, but they're hiding in the shadows in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
And I feel like a lot of people, and this is one thing that I love about you guys, and one of the reasons I'm so excited to bring you on board to the River's Edge family, is that so many of these podcasts out there, they put out maybe a great product, but no one knows who they are. They're hiding in the shadows, and they think that if they build it, people will come. But that's actually not true. If you build it, people won't come. You have to build it, and then you have to hustle like hell to make sure people know that it exists.
Good point.
So that way people can come. And that's what you guys do. You guys are everywhere. Everywhere. You cannot turn around without finding the YaJagoff podcast somewhere. I was walking through Market Square the other day and ran into you guys down at Market Square.
With the Wahlburgers.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's how you grow. This business here, the River's Edge, we went from a closet in an attic to here at Mr. Small's because I didn't sleep and I just went everywhere. Now, I was going out into the music community everywhere and streaming live performances and things like that, but that is how you get out there. That's how you're able to get yourself out there in front of people's eyes, let them know what you're doing, because podcasting, at the start, you don't make a lot of money. It takes years and years before you can get a sponsor. It's like I tell people, Han Funeral Home doesn't come around overnight. That's the sponsor for my show. It's something that you build towards, and a lot of people think that they can just put out a product and people are just going to jump right on and get in.
And you can if you're a brand already, right?
Sure.
You know, like Adam Levine would start a podcast, and how many people would listen to it? You know, Bill Burr's podcast. I mean, Bill Burr's podcast is literally unplanned, just ranting. But he has such a huge audience. But you're right, you have to work at it. And you know, I think we found out that you have to find a niche. You know, you have niche podcasts on here about museums and finance, you know, things like that. Our niche is a little bigger than just a niche.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think we're fortunate because it's Pittsburgh. So when you have an umbrella like Pittsburgh, as we were talking before, you know, it has so many arms and legs. So people like yourself who have that interesting story, that makes it easy on us. You know, there's so many stories to be told, and we're just fortunate that we've been able to find the right people to tell them.
Who are some of the most interesting guests that you guys have had on the show? You've had everything from athletes to musicians to mediums. You've covered it all.
Yeah. Oh, man. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of most interesting. This, you know, geez. You know, I think one of my favorite ones was Jane Lynch. Not because it's a name dropper thing.
I was just going to say, do you notice that?
She was
name
so genuine. When we talked to her, we told her right from the start we were not going to ask her the normal questions. And so we talked about what she was cooking for dinner that night, what her dog was eating, and those kind of things. And for me, that is kind of cool that we were able to kind of have that rapport with somebody like that.
I would say maybe Palomalu's wife, Theodora Palomalu, because she's such a philanthropist. And it was so amazing for me from a female perspective to have someone like her who truly does embrace Pittsburgh, you know, and she's such a, they're very reverent people, you know, and so she opened up to us a lot because it was about a passion of hers. But I also think, you know, Yarmer Yager was one of our favorites too because he was so hard to open up because he really didn't want to talk. So that, to me, I think that's something where you find accomplishment in the fact that you're really pulling to try to get the info out.
And I think one of the cooler stories is that Malena Rocca, she's a WWE wrestling wife or wrestler, diva, wrestling diva, right? And her husband, Bobby Shabinsky, he was from this area. And so while they're this big famous couple with this famous kid, the kid, their daughter has more followers than all of us combined on Instagram. And what they did was with all of that, they chose to live in Pittsburgh because they felt this was the right place to raise their daughter. Now, how crazy is that? You know what I mean? Wow. It's not crazy for the rest of us who, right? But I thought it was really interesting. They could literally live anywhere in the world, but their story was they came back here. So I think that was a cool story.
That is cool. Now, in a case like Yarmer Yager where he doesn't want to talk, how do you guys...
That was tough.
How do you pull that information out of him? How do you get someone like that to open up?
Go ahead.
No, do it.
So John calls me Andy Sheehan, who's the investigative reporter from Channel 2, because it drives me crazy. It is my job. I will get it out of you. So I was actually his driver to get him to his interview. And he made it very clear by body language and gestures that he wanted no parts of interaction. So I was trying my hardest to not interact until we got there. And then I just kind of sprung. And he's only like 2 years older than me. And I was like, Mr. Yager, can we please interview you? Like, just like in his face very quick. And it worked. I mean, I think he appreciated that I acknowledged that he gave that vibe, that he wanted that downtime. So I think it's really recognizing and relating. We use the word relatability constantly. I think it's relating to the person that you're interviewing and truly knowing who they are. And I have to say, part of our job is we look into it ahead of time. You know, there not a ton of prep because I'm not a big believer in having so many notes because it should be impromptu. As you said about podcasting, it's so important to kind of be on your feet and organic and really be ready to just have a conversation that transpires like you would any other time. But just enough detail that interests you on why, you know, it's important to have that guest on. Yeah,
and I mean, just where we named some big names, but quite frankly, we have some, you know, people like Patricia from Zachary's Mission. There is such a unique Pittsburgh nonprofit organization, and Bonnie Diver, that, you know, things like
Barry
that.
Kessler.
You know, right.
One of our favorite interviews.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's like one of your favorite
Barry
interviews.
Kessler is a guy that Rachel knows through hockey and whatever. He lives out in the Murraysville area, but he came on our podcast is kind of on a whim, and he told us the story that he was the drummer for REO Speedwagon and Charlie
Stevie
Daniels
Nicks.
band.
Yeah.
And he told the story about Charlie Daniels, the Charlie Daniels song, You Don't Lay Your Hand on a Pittsburgh Steelers Fan. He was part of getting that into the song because he took Charlie Daniels Daniels to a Steelers game right before that.
Wow.
So that was totally cool. And he just lives sort of like
normal
just
life.
A normal life. Yeah, just a normal life.
Has these gold records framed in his house, but you would never know it.
Yeah.
It's just, and that even goes to like the Geek Wire guys. We talk about that we were able to interview them about Amazon coming here. And I think for me, the pivotal part of the podcast that I'm noticing is we're running the gamut of things that are being discussed. And like I started to say before, it's not just entertainment. It's not just trying to get that big namer on anymore.
Yeah.
It's not chasing, who's in town and trying to, could we get them? Which of course is something that you would want to do as an interviewer or a storyteller. But I think it's recognizing the changes in Pittsburgh, embracing the fact that this is where we live, and we truly are passionate about the people who live here, and figuring out what are those things that we can talk about. Because sometimes, like you said, they can be political or educational, and there's very different points of view. And I think that's a big part of why I embrace it.
Well, I mean, we interviewed, I can't think of the name of the guy's company, but he's a robotics company that, they engineered your Bluetooth to work, your phone to work with your radio alarm saw, so that when you're taking measurements, you don't have to write them down on a piece of paper at the back of your hand. It automatically just sends the measurements over to the saw and cuts it. And
aren't you glad you asked us this question?
Yeah. No, and he's like,
and then
just
wait, I'm like,
ask me what a radio alarm saw is, because I don't know.
I get it completely, because I've had such a variety of interviews as well, and I know exactly what you mean. You mentioned some of the lesser known stars. Patrick Clunan, who's a good friend of mine, he writes for the Indiana Gazette, but he had written for the Daily News. And then that had gone out of business, and he had worked there for over a decade, and he was really emotional about that paper going away and what it meant to the community.
Right.
And then he had moved to the Uniontown Herald Standard, and then that was bought by Bob Nutting, and he gutted the paper, and he lost his job there. So I had him in after that time, and I said, well, you worked for KQV, that station's gone. You worked for the Daily News, they went out of business. You worked for the Herald Standard, they went out of business. How is the Indiana Gazette going to survive Pat Clunan?
Who wants to work with him, right?
Wow, that's funny.
It was
That's
great,
true. But it was probably a really intriguing story.
It was, it really was. So I know exactly what you mean. We've had larger names on here, maybe not as large as some of the names you guys have had, but we've had some bigger names on this program. But a lot of times it is those smaller people who are really vital to the Pittsburgh scene that you just don't know about that are as interesting.
Yeah.
One of the videos that has not been on a podcast, because we started off with videos long before the podcast, but the Sax Man. Everybody either knows and either loves or hates the sax man, the guy that plays for tips on the bridge as you go to the Pirate game, right? And he's so nasty to some people. Like, I'll never give him. And other people love him.
Yeah.
But who knows him? So it was cool to interview him as a Pittsburgh character and find out, what his background and how he even got started. So that's been the fun stuff.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. So you guys started out as a blog and then transitioned into doing a blog and podcast. Why did you decide to go the podcast route when you had the blog?
It's so funny. So I started the blog in anonymity, not because I was ashamed of it, because I just wanted to see if it would work out. Mm-hmm. And then the blog became videos when I got bored, and because I wanted to know about interesting people like Scott Blasey and things like that. And then in the Sax Man. And then I really started to wonder, it was gaining momentum. Could I make money from this? Is this just a hobby or a side hustle? And there's a gentleman by the name of Jason Falls that wrote a book, internationally known for his social media and marketing work. And I asked him to take a look at the blog, and I said, do you think there's something here? And he looked at it, and he came back, and I'm doing all this stuff on the side for free, right? And he goes, I think you need to start a podcast. I'm like, oh my God, one more thing to do for free, right?
Right.
And but it really has transitioned to the brand has become the brand, and I appreciate you saying that. But now is, instead of people finding the blog and then finding to the podcast, they find the podcast and then they kind of find the blog after that. So, but the podcast has been a way that we've been able to create some flow of marketing money, things like that. So he was right. He was right. And so I'm thankful to him every day. And I will give a shout out because it just happened on Twitter yesterday. Wahine Media, Karen and Gwen from Hawaii. When I was undercover, I was trying to figure out how to write a blog and what to do and social media etiquette, and I didn't want to ask anybody in Pittsburgh, so I reached out to them, and they became friends. And 2 years later, I spoke at the Hawaii Social Media Summit about YaJagoffs. And anyways, they just reached out yesterday on Twitter because there's a tourism conference coming to Pittsburgh, and one of the ladies that I met there is coming to speak. So, anyways, what was the point? The point is that it's been a cool thing. It's been a cool ride as far as how we started and how it's built up over time. But Jason Falls and those guys, ladies from Wahine Media, were really behind it all, and kind of interesting how social media happens, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
Creates friends.
So you guys decided, you reached out to me, you wanted to work together, which we were really thrilled about that opportunity. So what about the River's Edge attracted you to our company and our business, and what does the River's Edge mean to you guys as podcasters in what we're doing? Why did that connection make sense?
Well, for me, it makes sense because as we described before, I think the variety, the fact that there is a place for it. I was a journalist and then went into, as we said on our last podcast, went to the dark side for public relations and marketing, because in my era of education, it was, complete opposites. The two did not merge. Mm-hmm. And from that position, I met John, who was indeed the only podcast that you really considered media at the time, which was 3 years ago. I worked for Markowitz Communications, and when I would put a press release out, or we were, announcing something that was happening, he was always on that list. It was KDK, WPXI, TE, John Chamberlain. So, I didn't really understand. You were just launching it anyway. You only were a few episodes in. And I thought, this is kind of a cool concept. But to me, was it just a fluke kind of, we're really trying to, at the time, Pittsburgh was kind of breaking out with so many different things, becoming such a big foodie town and all the different titles we've been awarded. And I didn't know if that was something that was sustainable. And he turned me on to the fact that there are so many different niche podcasts. And then finding out that there's a place in which houses them, to me, was even more interesting, and I thought that it's the perfect fit. So we certainly appreciate that you're putting us at such a playbill here with being so great, but even just the fact that you recognize it and that you want to embrace Pittsburgh with a variety of different niche things, to me is my reason for wanting to do it.
And I think it's a matter
legit,
of who's trying to figure it out, right? And you guys are still we're still trying to figure it out.
Everyone is.
There's the Pittsburgh Podcast Network, right? And the Talent Network, and then there's the Epicast Network, and and then you have these national networks, and everybody wants to do their passion. They want to make money from their passion, but in the meantime, how do we all be serious about the business of podcasting? And I think that's what's coming up for us.
The fact that
you seem to be doing that. You're serious about the business of podcasting.
You're summing it up by saying, I didn't sleep. I did this. I figured it out. I love the fact, like you said, I figured it out in my attic, right? Right. That's exactly right. Like, I have 3 children that I try to juggle, and I'm like, how in the hell am I going to figure this out on top of trying to make a living at marketing and enjoying my 3 kids' lives and, and having a life with my husband? It's sort of this, again, balance.
Yeah. Young foreign kids on YouTube. They teach you everything. They teach you how to do green screen. They teach you how to hook the stuff up. They teach you how to do everything.
Yeah. And even though there's times I think John and I actually just left my dad's house trying to explain to him how to utilize Dropbox, which is a joke for us, because typically, like, my 15-year-old or his 25-year-old are explaining, right? And we somehow are explaining the maneuvering of Dropbox to my father, and I find myself giggling because I'm thinking, like, if my 15-year-old saw me explaining, he'd be like, meanwhile, she doesn't know how to do anything. He has to show me everything.
And my son knows that I'll throw my laptop against the wall before I'll ask many more questions.
I've done that. I've done that in the studio. Back at Millville Studios, we went to go live, and I couldn't connect to the internet, couldn't figure out why, resetted the router. I'm going live in minutes. I run out to the breaker box. Apparently, the internet had its own breaker, and in Millville Studios, there weren't light switches. You just flipped breaker switches. Someone turned off the internet. So I turned it back on. I get back into the studio. I get the computer working to go live, but my netbook will not work with it. and all of my show notes are on the netbook. And I got so angry, I dropped the netbook and kicked it. I punted it across the room.
There's the man.
And then, yeah. Then the screen was a little wonky, but you know what? I connected to the internet, and I was able to get through the show.
So
and I was
works.
angry, so it ended up being a really good show because I was really energetic and excited.
That's a good word.
Yeah,
energetic about it.
In an angry way. So.
But it's funny you talk about the no sleep, because we talk about this all the time because of our marketing business in the podcast, where it seems like we're up. So Rachel gets up in the morning early with her husband as he's going to work, and she gets up around 4:30. I'm a late guy because sometimes I play hockey and whatever, so I'll go to bed around 2 or 2:30 in the morning. So we say we basically have 22 of the 24 hours covered of pretty much every day. But that it is living and drinking and eating and sleeping and making sacrifices.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, you know what it's like. And maybe
bringing my posse with us.
Yeah, right.
It's just my kids.
And now we're part of your posse, which is cool, because, where the podcast will be out here, the podcast will be over there. There'll be multiple places to listen to it. And that's what we were hoping for.
And that's the key, really, is getting your podcast in so many different places. You cannot be in enough places to reach people, because everyone listens to their podcasts in a different way. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's something he always talks about.
And people talk about watching the podcast.
Yeah.
And they'll say, we watched your podcast.
We watched your podcast.
And I say, no, you don't. But now they do, right? Because look, this is part of your podcast, and it's a Facebook Live event, right?
So you talk about people working together. This entire thing was an inspiration from Michael Sorg with Sorgatron Media.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Because I was really opposed to the idea of video work in my podcasts, because when you look at a lot of these radio shows, for example, terrestrial radio, and they add a video element, there's a camera in the corner of the room. You see a bunch of people sitting around a desk. It just seems like really stupid. Like, why would you watch this? But when you look at the way Sorg does it, he has the different camera angles with the name underneath. It's like watching a CNN interview, and it's really fantastic. And I thought, wow, now this is something I would watch. I'm not going to watch a room, a big panoramic view of a bunch of people sitting around a desk, but I'll watch this where you can see people's facial expressions and see what they're talking about. And he really inspired me to get involved in the video. So that's really speaks to what you're talking about people working together in this community. So it's really great. Yeah,
and even the podcast we formerly, that are still on the same channel, Tunch and Wolf, they're moving to video. Dr. Mike, the veterinarian, he's moving to video. And, we felt like we still wanted, we know we have to force towards video, but we also want that podcast, that audio element as well. Just because, again, some people like to watch video on YouTube, and some people like to watch it on Facebook.
And I'll be honest, I don't watch any of our videos. I listen to them via the podcast because I am an audio person, and I like to. First off, I don't have time to sit there and watch videos. I need to be on the go. I listen to most of the stuff while I'm at work because my job's pretty mindless. So I could just throw in headphones and listen to podcasts or radio that way. So I'm still into that audio thing, and I feel like there are a lot of people who want to listen to the audio of a podcast.
I agree, and I think that those are your hardcore podcasters, right? The OGs, essentially the original people who started it and understand what a podcast is. But I think there is this growing need where everything is instant gratification, right? So people are listening, but now there's that need that they want more. So we want to see what these people are doing, which I think is a testament that you must be entertaining if they want to see what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I do think the mainstream population who want to know what else is going on, I think it's a good element to have. So I see the balance again in both.
And it is juxtaposing itself, right? Because you'll look at statistics and say people will not watch a Facebook video any longer than 92 seconds or whatever the number is today.
So why are you
in the meantime, why are we putting out a 45-minute video podcast with one camera angle or three angles? Yeah. Well, people are watching that, but it's so fickle right now, and you have to kind of deliver
figure it out, like you said. Let's just go to your attic. Figure it out.
Let's get a cold pizza and some beer.
Oh, it was crazy. And there were nails out of the wall. I remember we had a woman, Heather, who used to do the weather with us, and she was an actual meteorologist. It was great, but her hair would get caught on the wall from the nails. There were hangers above the computers.
Oh my God.
Our guests would have to sit on a futon outside of the studio with a wireless microphone because there wasn't enough room in the closet to bring them in.
Do you have pictures of that?
I do. I have a picture. I'll show you.
To see.
Those would be great nostalgic pictures to post at some point. That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So you guys have the house tour. We'll wrap up on that. We'll let people know about that. First off, I know you're going to be hosting the open mic at Howard's on the 5th. It's just kind
Yes.
of a welcome to the River's Edge party.
Because we dope.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for
You actually-
concurring. Thanks for concurring with him, Brian. We are not dope.
No, we are not. We're the furthest from it.
Well, tell me about the house tours, the porch tours,
tour, yeah.
because that is really a cool concept, and I think that's something I don't see anyone else doing that. That's really, really pretty cool.
Well, someone else is doing it. but-
Yeah.
Who else is doing it? Because
Well,
you're the only ones that know of.
93.7 The Fan are also doing
Okay.
it.
That's
so.
right. But then you guys did it first.
We
right?
did.
Yeah,
We
they
did,
copied
Brian.
He
it.
wins the prize.
Nice
right.
job, Brian. We
Yes.
didn't even bait you on
That's
that.
right. I knew that.
Yeah, John actually had the idea from an old radio show, right? Because we do like to kind of, why reinvent the wheel? You kind of figure out what works and what engages people. And he did it for a year, and it was sponsored by Port Authority the first year. And the second year, when I came on board, it was who our sponsor is again now, which is J&D Waterproofing out of Cannonsburg. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cannonsburg. And we're just fortunate. We get a sponsor, and basically we have our listeners apply essentially to come to their home and actually be the hub or the location of where the podcast is. So we just essentially bring our guests to their location. Now this year 3, is a little bit different because we have a charitable aspect, which you could talk about. It's near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, right. And so it came, the porch came from this guy, Jason Havelka, said, I'm going to put you guys on people's porches. And Stan and Guy, quite frankly, Stan Savern and Guy Junker, were the guys back on 970 AM, I think it was, when they first did the porch tour. So yeah, but this is our 3rd annual. And yeah, we've had some fun over the years, and we still want to have some fun, but we thought of a charitable element. So Zachary's Mission, they make these things, as we discussed earlier, called Zach Packs. And what their toiletries to help parents be more comfortable when they're in long-term situations of their child's care at the children's home or children's hospital. And so they try to give you nice amenities, better than hospital toothbrushes and better than hospital shampoo. They collect these Zach Packs, they distribute them. So what we're doing as part of the porch tour is each porch is going to be asked to collect a certain number of items to build a certain number of Zach Packs. The porch that builds the most Zach Packs, collects the most material, will get a prize from our sponsor, Total
nice.
Sports Enterprises.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there are 4 porch. Yeah, this is
I feel
totally
like
cool.
we're game show
Do it.
hosts right now.
Yeah,
And then, what's going to happen?
Right behind the door.
I knew you were going to do it. Go ahead.
So this year we have a 5th porch, and it's going to be Wahlburgers on McKnight Road
nice.
because they've offered to host a reunion of the 4 porch winners
Without New Kids on the Block.
Right, yeah, and have
my
people come there, and that's when we'll
upset.
announce the winner of the Who Built the Most Zach Packs.
Yeah,
That's
we just
awesome.
thought it was great to add
So
it.
not only do you win a porch tour with some food and things like that, you get to go to a free meal at Wahlburgers at some point. And
I have to say, the guests who we have lined up already are great guests. You know, we have the dates picked. Not all of the porches are picked just yet.
Right.
But we do have the guests at least in line for the dates that we're utilizing.
Dr. Cyril Wecht is
I
coming to
didn't know if
somebody's
you were
porch.
dropping it or not.
Nice.
Okay.
I know him. Yeah, that's great.
And he promises, I don't know if he's going to bring his own knives. or
I'm so
whatever.
excited to interview him because I'm anxious to hear. He's definitely an old school cat, so I think I'll be fine. But yeah, a lot of fun people, and we had Santonio Holmes catching football last year. We're hoping he can come back this year. He seems interested. We had a conversation
People
about
seem to
it
have
this
fun
morning.
doing it, And again,
It's such a cool idea.
We are nobody.
It is,
Like
yeah,
we are
we are-
nobody. It's not about us showing up.
We
at your
do bring
porch,
a party,
but
though.
we bring a party. Yeah,
Yeah.
the party
Not
don't
dope.
start till I walk in.
I'm sorry, Brian. He's gonna rip up your contract. No,
No, we do. We have a good time with the porches.
we
so,
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Cool.
It's fantastic, and that starts this Saturday.
This Saturday, the
and it's
23rd.
that's gonna be very, very cool.
And people can enter on YaJagoff.com. It's still time to enter because there are 3 more porches coming up. And the 18th of July, the 24th of July, and the 14th of July.
14th?
And 28th of July and 18th of August. So make sure you're going to be home. Like,
July
don't-
14th, July
say
28th,
that?
and August 18th.
Yeah, but make sure you're going to be home if you enter.
Yeah,
Right? Because we
right.
had that a couple last year where people entered and then they
And then
weren't
they're like,
there.
oh,
Like, I'm
I
not home
can't.
that day.
Yeah, Yin's guys come to my house, and then they.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's crazy.
That's it.
So you can find more information about the porch tours at YaJagoff.com. You can listen to all the previous episodes, and then starting July 5th, you can listen to the Jagoff every single week, every Thursday, 10 a.m. right here at riversedgepgh.com. Thanks, John. Thanks, Rachel. Looking forward to having you on. This has been a major announcement. major announcement on the River's Edge. You can listen to local music 24 hours a day at riversedgepgh.com. Local music like The Way It Goes from Nameless in August, which we're going to wrap up with right now.